Today's webinar, Set Up for Success, Enrollment and Operations in the Child and Adult Care Food Program, which is a federally funded nutrition assistance program, is an open forum discussion. Participants are welcome to enter questions or comments in the chat box found on the right-hand side of your screen throughout the webinar, and feedback will be provided at the end. Presenting today, we have Sara Cole, who is the Vice President of Program Development and Innovation at the Greater Rochester YMCA, Ms. Mary Ellen Flynn from the New York State Department of Health, CACFP Department, and myself, Ligea Alexander, with the Network for Youth Success. On our agenda today, we will talk about, I will tell you about the Network for Youth Success, and we will have an interview with an after-school program, and then we will discuss the survey and discuss the survey further. Formerly known as Afterschool Works New York and the New York State After School Network, we are the New York State Network for Youth Success. Despite our name change, we continue to advocate to increase access to high-quality, expanded learning programs, and we provide resources and programs to support high quality. We support many types of programs that foster youth success, including after-school and summer programs, community schools, and expanded learning time schools. Our mission is to strengthen the capacity and commitment of communities, programs, and after-school programs and professionals to increase access to high-quality programs and services beyond the traditional classroom. We have 10 regional networks across the state and partners in New York City. Our advisory council is made up of our public partners, and our board members come from many of our partnering agencies. We also provide program accreditation for after-school programs to increase program quality and publicly certify that quality. We also offer a credential for after-school professionals that meet the education requirements in the school-age child care regulations that can be used as professional development tools. Additionally, we offer membership for professionals across the state, providing access to numerous targeted resources and a discount on our annual statewide conference. We are the state affiliate for the National After Schools Association, so our members also become associate members with the NAA. Here's a list of our regional networks, which can be found across the state of New York. Now we will hear from Sara Cole, who will share her experiences getting started with the Child and Adult Care Food Program, better known as CACFP, and solutions to challenges that had arrived during the initial stages. Sara, can you tell us about your program's experience enrolling in CACFP? For instance, aside from the benefits to enrollment, what about CACFP was appealing to your after-school program to encourage enrollment? Can you unmute yourself? We can.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah.
Perfect. Thanks so much for having me. For us, we're a very large organization. We're about a $50 million organization. We serve tens of thousands of youth every day in our programs. And for us, CACFP really is the key that unlocks our ability to serve high-quality food to youth across our city. So Rochester is a city which has a really staggering rate of poverty for its size. It actually has the nation's second highest rate of poverty in terms of youth. And that means that so many of the youth in our community do not have access to food at all or high-quality food when they're not in our programs or at school. So for us, becoming involved in CACFP really allowed us to continue moving toward quality in terms of the food that we serve, but also provided the reimbursement that really allowed us to serve meals. Thanks to CACFP, we're able to serve more than 1 million meals and snacks a year just in our urban core. And that includes everything from breakfast and lunch in our full-day programs and our before-school programs to dinners in our after-school programs. And obviously we work with SFSP during the summer as well. So for us, the appeal was really that ability to allow us financially to service our community, and also able through that funding to work with FoodLink, our community food bank, and also our food service provider. So it really enables us to do the work that we're very proud of doing.
That sounds great. Thank you. Were there any challenges in getting enrolled, such like any initial challenges to participation, and how did your after-school program overcome these challenges?
Sure. I'm a big proponent of CACFP, and I'm also a big proponent of reminding people that I don't think, unfortunately, these systems were not meant to be user-friendly. And I know all of us in our various capacities are working to fix that, but I often talk to other smaller agencies who are intimidated about CACFP application or logistics or rules, and as it stands, these things are very cumbersome. I think it's important for agencies who are either thinking about working with CACFP reimbursement for the first time, either as sponsors or with vendors, to remember to reach out to their state advocates and their state offices. Those folks will be helpful. It's also really important for folks to remember that they are their own best advocates. One of the stories that I often tell, actually across the nation, is that I had a 6-month fight with our own state agency about our vendor choice. We put out a bid, as we have to do, and we got 2 vendor replies. One of them met our addendum for quality, and one did not. It took me 6 months to argue for the vendor who did. That was the right answer, and I did eventually win. But had I not known that I could advocate for myself, we would have had a different outcome. So I think it's very important for folks on the line to make sure they're educating themselves about CACFP and about state and federal requirements. And it really is on each one of us to become our own experts and really realize that we can reach out to other folks who will also advocate for us. But don't assume that you don't know what's right for your sites, and don't assume that you always have to take the first answer that you get, because I'm very, as I said, I'm very proud of the work that we do. I'm very proud of the vendor that we work with and our extremely high standards, but sometimes you have to fight for those things.
Thank you. My next question is, does your after-school program serve both supper and snack? And has serving both supper and snack increased student participation if you do serve both supper and snack?
We do, in some of our sites, serve both. At some sites, we've moved 100% to a super snack, so we're serving either a cold dinner, which is how I refer to a super snack, or we're serving a hot dinner, hot 5-component dinner. At some of our sites, we have found that really there is the need for both. And that's a place in which, again, outside grant funding or operationalizing that cost can be helpful because you won't be able to get reimbursement for both of those items. And we have certainly found in some of our neighborhoods that the need is there, and we are doing both. So that's where it helps. We are very vociferous about getting additional funding. We write a lot of grants and work with a lot of partners, and so that has enabled us in several of our sites where we've seen the need to do both.
Thank you. And who manages your meal counts and the distribution process?
So we have many, many sites. So at the corporate level, I manage our partnerships. I approve all the menus. As I said, we work very closely with FoodLink, who is our local food bank and our regional food hub. And they have a scratch kitchen on site, so we work closely with them for both meal creation and menu creation and distribution. But certainly there's, you know, with 75 plus sites and tens of thousands of youth, there are lots of hands in this pot. So at the end of the day, our program directors report up to our finance department in terms of the numbers of meals that they serve, and that information gets sent to me so that I'm always tracking each month how many meals we're serving, any problems that come up. I tend to be involved in, you know, negotiating any problems, solving problems that might come up between our vendors and our sites. But we've been working with our current vendor for a very long time, so it's a pretty well-oiled machine at this point. But I do keep my hands very closely on it just because I'm very passionate about this. It's really important to me that we're doing good work and that it's working as seamlessly as possible.
Great. And how does the program meet the requirement for an enrichment component? Through nutrition education, or how does your after-school program choose to implement nutrition education?
So we follow the YMCA's. We have a 9-core component after-school model, and those core components include things like global learning, health and wellness, leadership development, global learning, arts, and a variety of things. So health and wellness and nutrition education is a key part of all of our after-school programs and our early education programs as well. So that's something that's built into our curriculum planning every single week, and really we believe in it wholeheartedly, so it's actually a fairly seamless fit in. We do a lot of hands-on cooking along with that nutrition education for both youth and families, because we found that that's a really great way to increase education about nutrition and also get kids excited about being in the kitchen, and even shopping and going to local farmers markets as well. So for us, it's been a really natural fit, and I think for programs out there, there's a lot of great curriculum that's available online in a variety of ways to enhance that if you're thinking about doing some hands-on nutrition education in your program.
That sounds really great. So it seems that CACFP has really benefited your after-school program. Can you tell us specifically how has it benefited your administrative and student and parental?
Sure. So as I mentioned, you know, again, CACFP reimbursement really allows us to serve the food that we serve and allows us, you know, at the size of our organization, also allows us to have some infrastructure behind the scenes, which I think you're sort of getting at through your last question, to make sure that we're able to do things like report numbers and ensure visit quality through audits, things that we do ourselves as a sponsor. So that has really enabled us to also build corporate infrastructure to make sure that these programs are all running seamlessly, that we have the right vendors, that we're checking on our programs. And I think in terms of families, again, knowing that youth in our programs are getting healthy meals and snacks is a huge draw for our families. For many of our families, they're living in food insecure neighborhoods and food insecure households. So that's really been a benefit to know that those things are happening in program. And additionally, with additional grant funding outside of CACFP, we've begun sending home weekend food backpacks, we've started food pantries, so really we've created additional services that really surround our program and the food service that happens in our after-school programs and our early ed programs and our camp programs to make sure that families have the resources they need all through the year.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today, Sara.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And please, if anyone has questions, I'd be happy to follow up with anyone after the webinar or in the future if anyone wants to reach out.
Thank you. I think that a lot of our registrants will follow up at the end. Moving forward, the rest of today's webinar is guided by a survey conducted by the Afterschool Alliance, which and they are a nonprofit organization which advocates for access to affordable, quality after-school programs for all. At the end of the survey period, they received a higher respondent turnout from programs eligible to enroll in CACFP than compared to programs that unenroll. Nonetheless, the survey results obtained represent the multitude of feedback expressed during external outreach efforts. The survey, however, is not accessible to the public and only available for internal use. We've pulled together the responses from the survey into 6 major topics, and we'll start with eligibility. In this section, concerns expressed surrounding eligibility mostly came from eligible programs. On the unenrolled side, there were little to no concerns surrounding eligibility, which is expected since these programs were able to enroll and decided to end their participation in the program. Therefore, today's discussion around eligibility will be directed to the concerns expressed by eligible programs not currently enrolled. On the survey, these concerns included difficult or unclear area eligibility requirements, low awareness about CACFP, with some programs simply not being able to qualify. To clear up disparities around eligibility, we have Mary Ellen Flynn, who will provide a more concise breakdown of eligibility requirements. Mary Ellen? I think you're still muted, Mary Ellen. We can't hear you.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Hi, yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you very much to Sara. That was a great story, and we really appreciate your work with CACFP. We have mentioned that the Child and Adult Care Food Program is able to help after-school programs feed students safely prepared, nutritious foods that promote wellness, healthy growth, and development. CACFP is supported through an entitlement program from the United States Department of Agriculture and is administered in New York State by the Department of Health. As we mentioned, we're going to start to cover the specifics of our at-risk after-school program. It must be operated by a school, public, or private organization. The after-school program must operate on a regular basis during non-school hours. The at-risk reimbursement is only available during the school year. So we're going to follow the school calendar, September through June. We already mentioned education or enrichment activities, and that must be included as part of your after-school program. And as far as the students are concerned, they must be enrolled in and attend school, and they are able to participate until the end of the school year in which they turn 19. Next slide, please. So in order to determine if a site is eligible for the at-risk reimbursement, it needs to be located in a low-income area. And in order to determine that, we will ask you the question, where would the student go to school if they lived right next door to the after-school program? We take that location or that school, and we then refer to the data from the New York State Education Department. Now, an area is considered to be low income if it is served by a public school, whether it's the elementary, the middle, or the high school, in which 50% or more of the children enrolled are eligible for free or reduced price meals. The good news here is this eligibility determination is then valid for 5 years. Next slide, please. To further clarify, the at-risk program reimburses for the snack and/or the supper at the free rate without having to qualify the participants individually based on the household income. The income eligibility applications are not required when the programs are only claiming for the PM snack and/or the supper, and they qualify for the at-risk reimbursement. We now have a CACFP pre-screening tool. So as indicated on the slide, you would follow the link to determine if your program would be eligible for CACFP by answering several pre-screening questions. Then you are prompted to enter your contact information, and you would receive a follow-up call from CACFP.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Now this brings us to requirements. Both groups expressed concerns surrounding program requirements. On the eligible program side, this took the form of difficulty of the application process, the meal requirements being too different from other existing meal programs, and the academic and enrichment program requirement. On the enrolled side, this group was mainly concerned about facility training requirements and budget and accounting requirements. Both groups expressed concerns surrounding health and safety regulations required by CACFP. Now, we have, sorry. Go ahead.
So the CACFP application process is really just a phone call away, and we have public health nutritionists in our office that are able to guide a potential new sponsor through the initial forms. So what we do is we have the phone call, or we set up another date in case it's not convenient at that time for this potential new sponsor, and we'll discuss eligibility. We're definitely going to look for the location and the school district information that I just mentioned. We're going to look at that. We're going to make sure that they can qualify for the at-risk after-school program. And then we fill out exactly 2 forms over the phone. And one is for the management plan, and then another is for the specific site. And then we have a checklist. And we go through the checklist for additional, that we mentioned the additional forms that we'll be sending out, plus additional items that would be requested. The packet would be mailed out, and you can always call CACFP for clarification. And Sara made a great point about communication, and we are here to help you and answer your questions. So that is just a very great option that she mentioned earlier. So once you get your packet together, you're going to get it completed, and you want it to be accurate as possible. You're going to mail the application to our address. We then get the application here. It's assigned to a public health nutritionist. If it's missing any items, they work with you to make sure that that information is provided, and we hopefully then can move the application forward. And as it gets near completion, the public health nutritionist will schedule a pre-approval visit, and this is an excellent opportunity for one-on-one technical assistance. And so that part of it works out really well as far as helping with your organization and some of the record-keeping requirements. Next slide, please. Now, as far as the meal requirements are concerned, I know that was a concern, but as of June of 2015, and many of you already know this, the OCFS, the Office of Children and Family Services, for their school-age child care are now required to follow the USDA CACFP meal pattern. This is even if they are not participating in CACFP. So if your program is at-risk eligible, so you will get the highest level of reimbursement, it makes sense to follow through and participate in CACFP. You are required to follow the meal pattern for USDA, CACFP, and why not receive the reimbursement? Next slide, please. So as we address the training concerns, yes, this would apply to all CACFP sponsoring organizations. They must train their staff on program rules and regulations, and again, it only is a great opportunity for staff to receive training. It needs to occur once a year. It can be conducted with individual staff members, especially like a new staff member. It can be part of a staff meeting, or it can be a separate workshop. And it's only the staff responsible for the CACFP tasks that need to be trained. So the training must be conducted by the sponsoring organization. Any of the trainings that you may send your staff to at CACFP is not going to fulfill the requirement. And it can be on different training topics as listed on the slide. Those are a few ideas. And so it can be civil rights, it can be the meal pattern, record keeping, claims and reimbursement. And be very sure that you document. The training must be documented with the date of the training, the topic of the training, or include the agenda, keep it all together with your papers, and include the staff, names of the staff that attended, location of the training. You want to make sure your paperwork is complete.
For the educational and enrichment requirement, to meet this requirement, after-school programs must provide an educational and enrichment component. This can take the form of arts and crafts, homework assistance, computer classes, recreational sports, and all other educational activities. Since you must meet this requirement, it also presents a great opportunity to introduce nutrition education to further reinforce the importance of healthy eating. This can also be implemented as a STEM activity such as a photosynthesis project, learning about the process by which plants make food, and activities for exploring the parts of the plant. It also educates students on sustainability, food and agriculture, and food issues. For example, there are a number of courses available online, like the Grow to Learn New York City. They provide free educational material. USDA's Dig In, and this presents a lot of opportunities to explore different cultures through food. It also presents the opportunity to connect students with their local community, and parents can become involved, bringing local communities together. Here are a few examples of the nutritional courses I mentioned. The Pennsylvania Nutrition Education tracks, they teach nutrition education through using mathematic activities, and the University of Maryland Extension Food Supplementation Nutrition Education Program, they offer an entire course outline on their website, and it's called Growing Healthy Habits. To talk about the health and safety requirement, both survey groups expressed concerns about health and safety regulations, and the National Food Service Management Institute offers a manual online accessible by the public, which gives a thorough breakdown on how to keep your program site healthy and safe for serving food. On their website, they also offer online food safety courses, video resources, and a pre- and post-test assessment tool, all accessible to the public and helpful for professional development for you and your staff. Now we move on to meals. As expected, feedback surrounding meals were mainly gathered from the unenrolled group. Eligible programs had not yet enrolled in CACFP and were not at liberty to provide any relevant experience regarding this topic. Nonetheless, the unenrolled group had a very high response rate surrounding meals, with concerns involving the cost of food, meal pattern requirements, ability to provide quality meals, the ability to find a vendor offering affordable, high-quality meals, the procurement process, and the transportation of those meals to the program site. In order to receive reimbursement, supper and snack must meet the CACFP Healthy Child meal pattern, which I will cover in an upcoming slide. The meal pattern guides the types of food that are served at each meal and snack. By following the CACFP meal pattern requirement, programs ensure that meals and snacks are well-rounded and offer more variety. Better variety can increase the nutritional values of menus and support positive health outcomes. And here's the Healthy Child meal pattern developed by the New York State Department of Health. The chart includes the age groups and minimum required serving size for each age group. In most after-school programs, the age group of children served is between 6 to 12 years of age, and the required serving sizes have been defined in the meal pattern. However, programs which include children older than 12 years should reconsider their serving sizes of meals and snacks being served. These are minimum serving sizes, and providers should strive to meet the dietary needs of the children they serve. Today, we'll be focusing mainly on after-school providers working with ages 6 to 12 years. As we can see, the meal requirements differ for a snack and a supper. So if you're serving a snack, at minimum, providers would select 2 of the 4 components listed and serve them at the required serving size. This can be 1 cup or 8 ounces of milk, 3/4 cup fruit and or vegetable, and combined with 1 ounce meat or meat alternative and a 1/2 cup grain or a slice of whole grain bread. And if serving a supper, at minimum, meals will include each of the 5 components, and that is 8-ounce milk, 2 ounces of meat or meat alternative, 3/4 cup total of fruit and or vegetables, and 1/2 cup grain. Providers can find additional information on what is and is not creditable in the crediting meals with CACFP handbook. It is recommended, though, that New York State after-school programs use the crediting foods handbook provided by the New York State Department of Health, which differs from the USDA handbook used in other states. This is because the New York State handbook was adapted based on New York State best practices. I've provided a link to the handbook at the end of the webinar. So here we have an example of a supper meal. All required components are favored. There's the meat and meat alternative component, the vegetables and fruit, and the grain and bread component is favored, although the milk component isn't favored because it should be a 0% or fat-free milk or 1% or low-fat milk. And here's an example of a snack, which once there are no nut or seed allergies in your program, can simply be a slice of whole grain bread, 2 tablespoons peanut butter, and a banana. Well, that meets more than the required components, because at minimum 2 out of 4 components are needed to credit a snack. However, milk was added. This is a perfect example of meeting the minimum requirement but aiming to meet the energy needs of the children in the program. And now we have an example of a sample cycle menu. One way programs can reduce their food costs is by making use of cycle menus. This is as programs can work to assist, cycle menus help to assist food staff in planning meals and keeping the cost of food low, since you would have an idea of the quantity of foods needed and you know what to buy and the ability to reuse some ingredients. I've provided both hot and cold menu options for programs with access to a full kitchen and those without kitchen access. As you can see, there is plenty of room for variety even while staying within CACFP guidelines. With CACFP, food comes first. The goal of the program is to increase the nutritional quality of meals served. Providers should aim to serve fresh fruit and vegetables when possible and ensure that foods have a healthy balance of both macronutrients and micronutrients. In particular, the amounts of sodium and sugars and trans fats in meals served. When using canned goods, aim for products without added salt and sugars. It is also important to consider the population demographics of your program. To reduce food waste, programs can try to provide healthy meals which resemble foods that children are used to. This can be having one cultural meal per week, which also presents a great opportunity to use food to educate students about different cultures. Menus must be provided with paperwork at the end of the month, and we will go further into paperwork in upcoming slides. However, it is important that when submitting menus, the type of milk served, either fat-free or 1%, is indicated on the menu, and water indicated and provided at snack if no other beverage is served.
So yes, in preparing for this webinar, we checked for the statistics for the month of April. And as these numbers indicate, many students are receiving nutritious suppers and snacks. Our number during that month was 2.1 million of the suppers, and our at-risk snacks totaled about 600,000, and our daily attendance was about 265,000. So this is definitely filling a gap in many communities to make sure that the students are receiving nutritious meals and snacks.
And now this brings us to reimbursements. Both groups expressed concerns on this topic, and for the eligible to enroll group, programs were mostly concerned that the reimbursement amount was insufficient to cover the operating costs and cost of administration, while programs that ended their participation expressed concerns about the labor costs, ability to provide quality meals, and the ability to find vendors offering affordable, high-quality meals at their reimbursement rates.
So as we mentioned earlier, CACFP is 100% federally funded by the United States Department of Agriculture. So the reimbursement rates that you see up on the slide are set by Congress, and they're updated annually. We get our rates in July of that year. Programs that serve the low-income children or are located in low-income areas are going to receive the higher level of reimbursement. So if you look at the chart, the reimbursement rates are in three categories. We have free, reduced, and paid. And the current reimbursement rates for the at-risk supper and snack are the same as the free rate of reimbursement, which is our highest level of reimbursement. So you definitely are able to maximize as far as your reimbursements are concerned. Next slide, please. So it's important to understand that the amount of the reimbursement available under CACFP is not going to be based on the amount of money that you spend on food. The amount of reimbursement under CACFP is going to be based on the type of meal served, and here we have at-risk and at-risk snack and supper, the number of meals served, and those snacks and suppers must be in compliance with the Healthy Child meal pattern and the minimum required amount. Next slide. So, and it was just mentioned that the intent of the reimbursement received by a CACFP participating program is to ensure that nutritious meals and snacks are served. It's a supplemental food program, and it's not unusual for the CACFP reimbursement to go entirely for the food expense. However, if there is some reimbursement left over after purchasing the food, there are other allowable costs that may be approved in a budget. So your approved budget could include some non-food supplies such as paper goods, and it possibly may help with food service personnel. And this reimbursement, if you think about it, could definitely, you know, it's for the food, but it could free up funding for your other program-related costs. Next slide, please. So let's just look at a sample reimbursement. So this sample has 100 school-aged children, and they're present about 20 days that month. Now, this particular program serves both a snack and a supper, and this would allow that program to be reimbursed about $8,500 per month and $85,000 for the school year. So if you do the math, it definitely can have an impact, a very positive impact on your budget.
This brings us to paperwork. Surrounding paperwork, eligible programs express concerns around liability and financial risk, whilst unenrolled programs had higher concerns surrounding record keeping, monitoring requirements, and the cost of labor. To support the concerns about record keeping and monitoring requirements, for new sponsors and new programs, you're required to submit a claim for reimbursement form, and your daily paperwork includes filling out your attendance rosters, taking meal counts, and providing daily meal menus for the week. And your monthly forms include the receipts for food service and supplies, and once again, those reimbursement claim forms. For monitoring, sorry.
So as far as monitoring is concerned, there are some basic requirements, and this is especially true for an after-school program that has multiple sites. Okay, so you need to have more than one site, and you are required to have CACFP monitoring at different locations. So the multi-site sponsors would be conducting 3 visits per year for each site. The monitoring visits must be less than 6 months apart, and this is especially challenging because remember, you will have a 10-month schedule. 2 of the 3 visits must be unannounced, and at least one of those visits must include a meal observation. We have a form that's available for you. It's called the Monitoring Checklist for Daycare Centers, which is a very useful tool when you're conducting your visits at each site. And always remember to sign the form and have that site representative sign the form. Next slide, please. So there is the CACFP Information and Payment System, which is a web-based application, and we call it SIPS for short. In SIPS, you can update your center application if you change your address or any of those kinds of things. You can submit your claims, you can adjust claims, and you can respond to administrative review findings if you need to. Using SIPs helps decrease the amount of time it takes for CACFP to improve a change because there's no wait for a mail delivery. And using SIPs can also decrease the amount of paperwork. The SIPs application is secure within the health commerce system. It's easy to apply for, and you can visit our website for more information regarding the SIPs program. So, I would propose that if your after-school program is in an at-risk eligible area, that you start slowly, and that would be by just serving a snack. So once you go through the application process and you're approved to participate, let's just break this down. The program would be required to provide a snack meeting the Healthy Child meal pattern and including the minimum required quantities for ages 6 through 12. You would save all of your receipts, your food receipts in that month, and you would have that organized in a monthly envelope or folder, whatever worked best for your program. You would need to complete a daily attendance, which you are more than likely already doing for your program. And we have a second level of accounting. It's the meal count record for the snacks served. Now, this form, the intent is that it would be completed at the point of service. So then you would use, at the end of the month, you would use your attendance record and your meal count form, and you would be able to complete your monthly claim. And in the beginning, once at startup, you wouldn't be on a paper claim, but as your program became SIP certified, then you would be able to submit your claim electronically. By starting with the at-risk SNAP program, you do not have any income eligibility forms for your families to complete. You do not have to categorize those forms, and you do not have, for just SNAC only, and let me repeat that, the SNAC only program does not require completing the food production records. And then as you were in CACFP and you attended more trainings and became more experienced, you may choose to expand your program and include both your snack and a supper, but you could at least start slowly and get a sense of how the program works.
And now this brings us to our last topic, communication. Both programs expressed communication challenges. Eligible programs found difficulty in recruiting their facility and engaging their community in the program, while unenrolled programs expressed difficulty maintaining support from facilities and staff. Making the case for a healthy after school. CACFP is a federally funded nutrition assistance program which helps to enhance the nutrition quality of meals and snacks offered. This helps to attract children to the program and benefits the children of the program because it increases their concentration for better participation during the program hours. CACFP also enhances the quality of the after-school program by supporting the program through reimbursement for the creditable meals and or snacks served, and provides programs with free program materials, technical assistance, and training opportunities. You also have access to a nutritionist, like Mary Ellen said, for guidance with CACFP regulations, meal compliance issues, and food buying. CACFP also offers trainings across New York State, located in Albany, the metro area, Syracuse, and the Western region. Child nutrition is an important initiative to the Network for Youth Success. we provide free resources on child nutrition and want to increase enrollment across the state in the Child and Adult Care Food Program so that programs like yours can take advantage of reimbursements for serving healthy suppers and snacks as required by the school-age child care. This not only provides an opportunity to make your program more sustainable through bringing in additional resources, but serving healthy meals and snacks is a component of a high-quality program. So how can you get connected? You can visit our webpage to learn more about the services we provide, our regional networks, and the initiatives we support. And you can also sign up for our listserv to receive our monthly newsletter. And you can follow us on social media at New York State Youth Success on Twitter and Facebook at New York's Network for Youth Success. I've also provided resources and links to the Healthy Child Meal Pattern, the New York State Crediting Foods and CACFP Handbook, and a link to our frequently asked questions. Now we would like to open up for questions and answers. Please take your time to type any questions you may have for any of our presenters in the chat box. Okay, so we have one question. So one participant has asked, I think I heard that you can be reimbursed for both supper and snacks, and then that you cannot. Can you be reimbursed for both? Mary Ellen, can you?
So the at-risk after-school program can reimburse for both the supper and the snack, and yes, it can be both.
Okay, thank you. And it was pointed out that Sara mentioned CACFP. Can you elaborate on what that is, Sara?
Sure, that's the summer food service program. So it's some, again, these are the areas in which these things could be much more streamlined, but it's essentially the funding that pays for summer food service. It has many commonalities with CACFP, but some differences as well. And so essentially, though, it provides the same thing. It provides federal funding, which comes through states for food service during the summertime.
Thank you. Another question for you, Sara. How long would you say it took you to connect with outside funding?
I'm sort of a firm believer that you have to swing at a lot of balls when it comes to grant writing and any sort of outside fundraising or fund finding. And so, you know, that's something that's always been a big part of the work that I do, and really driven by the passion that I have for this work. So I would encourage anybody out there to think about, you know, and again, you don't need to be an expert grant writer, you don't need to be an expert at foundations, but just start looking around. There are a lot of wonderful funding streams out there. The Walmart has some money available for every state to support food service in a variety of ways. We actually received $200,000 from the Walmart Foundation to fund weekend backpacks a couple of years ago. Your local foundations might have money as well, but I really think you can start small. Just do a web search for some resources, either in your city or nationally. And again, if folks want to contact me after this, I'd be happy to have a phone call with them or get together to share some resources.
Thank you. Another question for either presenters. If you serve young people till the age of 21 and they are enrolled in education and enrichment activities, can these meals be reimbursed?
So ours will go, CACFP will reimburse for students that are enrolled and attend school until they turn 19. They can be 18, and then if they turn 19 during the school year, they will be able to participate.
Great. And we have one more question. Do you have any menu planning tools to recommend for new programs? The cycle menus included in the webinar will be provided. I'll be sending those out at the end, and I also have on our network page website other sample menus, which has a variety of meal options. But you can also check the MyPlate website. They offer a menu planning tool as well as a nutrition guide where you can check the nutritional quantity of the foods, of certain foods. And the New York State Department of Health also has their food buying guide, which assists programs with the foods that they plan to purchase. And the Healthy Child Meal Pattern really helps, and the Accrediting Foods Handbook really helps to keep you within those CACFP guidelines and provides you with options for your menus.
And just to add to that, our website is www.health.ny.gov/CACFP, and there are great resources on that for, there are menu planning samples of menus on that. If you also are interested, the Office of Children and Family Services has trainings available online. They're available to it's under info providers, and it does meet the USDA CACFP meal pattern. But as you're starting and getting used to it, it's definitely a good starting point. There is the child meal pattern, and there's a link for that. It's about an hour and a half long. It provides 1.5 hours of credit hours for you too. So that's a very good option and available online at any time at no cost. And within that training, there's an attachment, and it'll be right in the paperclip, and it'll have, it's called a toolkit, and it has information about following the new regulations that went into effect in June of 2015. But also in the toolkit are menu planners, sample menus, just another good resource for starting. You will have to, as Ligea mentioned, our Healthy Child Meal Pattern is based on best practices, so it does have a few more specifics, and as she referred you to, the New York State Crediting Foods in CACFP is an excellent resource to help you with that.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. That's a really good resource, that OCFS course. Another question, can you print the slides? Yes, you can, and I will be sending them to all registered participants at the end of the webinar. Another question, why only up to age 19 when youth can stay in school up to 21 with special education services?
So we're obviously based on our federal regulations. Now, if you're talking about a developmental disability program, I'm not sure if that's where you're going, then that would be something that you could call and ask us specifically about.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. So that brings us to the end of all our questions and at the end of the webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and we hope you will find success in participating in the Child and Adult Care Food Program. Bye.